Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. So it's time for the roundup show after Liverpool beat Fulham by 2-0 today at Anfield to go top of the table for a bit. Unfortunately, Manchester United couldn't do anything to help us in their game against Manchester City later on today. You know, the one time we actually wouldn't mind them winning a game and they go and let you down. And to anyone who did want Manchester United to lose that game, why? Because I think at the end of the day, I think we should be more concerned about Liverpool winning the league than what Europa League qualification spot Man U end up finishing in. If you ask me, I'd rather they won than Manchester City won. But hey ho, we are still only 2 points behind the top of the Premier League table. We're also, I believe, 2 points ahead of Chelsea as well after they only managed to draw against Everton. So things in all went pretty well for Liverpool today, although I think it's fair to say the performance wasn't entirely up to standard. There were times when I thought we did play well, and I'll come on to individual performances a bit later, but like I said in my post-match reaction outside the ground, I thought when we needed to turn it up, when Fulham applied a little bit of pressure, there was one moment very late on in the game, I think it was, where it was Robertson, Milner and Firmino on the left-hand side, and Fulham just tried to get a bit of pressure on them and close them down and win the ball back, and they suddenly started playing this really quick passing triangle where their feet were so good, they were carrying off these kind of trick passes and everything, and it just showed when these players need to actually step up and play well, they're actually really, really good, and it is just kind of like that they're almost playing within themselves at times, because at the end of the day, we've played a lot of football matches, and you don't always want the players to be playing full throttle at all times, and also, if I'm honest, today is the kind of game where in any other season apart from this one, or potentially the last one as well because of Manchester City being absolutely incredible at football in both seasons, you'd look at that and say that win is absolutely the sign of champions. You know, don't always play well. Sometimes let yourselves down a little bit defensively, but at the end of the day, come through with a clean sheet and a solid 2-0 win. So I don't think today was by any means a bad day to be a Liverpool fan. I think despite the fact there were some holes in the performance, I was still really pleased with what we came away with. And of course, a 2-0 win is always fantastic. So player ratings, looking at every single player and rating them out of 10, as we always do on this show. You all know how player ratings work, don't you? Alisson gets a 7 out of 10. I think there were some times actually where he made some saves that I think he could have dealt better with. I think there was one in the first half where he gets down low but he bobbles it back up, and I think any striker who is a bit more alert to that and in the right position at the right time and composed enough to tuck it away could have actually benefited from that kind of goalkeeping. So he wasn't necessarily always good in that respect, but he still did keep a clean sheet, and he gets a bonus point as well for that absolutely fantastic presence of mind and brilliant distribution to set Trent Alexander-Arnold on his way so that Liverpool can get that opening goal through Mo Salah. So bonus point for him there. He gets a 7 out of 10. Trent Alexander-Arnold, a difficult one to score, I think, because he gets a 6 out of 10 from me. I think at times he got caught out defensively, which was kind of the story with most of our defence today. Going forward, there were other times where he overhits crosses or he just wastes good opportunities and stuff like that. And also on free kicks, his delivery wasn't that great. He was either making poor crosses or whamming it into the wall when trying shots. So not an amazing performance, but he does play that pass for Mo Salah, so he technically gets the assist for the first goal. And again, like Alisson, that is both a great mix of technique and presence of mind to spot the run and pick it out perfectly. So he gets, again, a bonus point for that maybe. And I think all in all, a 6 out of 10 performance. But if he just got rid of a few of them defensive errors or found a few more people with his crosses, he would have bumped it up to a 7 out of 10. So not an amazing performance, and it is a bit disappointing to see what's going on with Trent Alexander-Arnold at the moment, but hopefully the international break will see him get a little bit of form back in a crucial period for Liverpool for that Christmas run of fixtures. So Virgil van Dijk gets 7 out of 10. I think, again, there were a couple of moments where he really lets himself down, where the ball gets away from him or his man gets away from him and suddenly Fulham are bearing down on goal inside our own box, and you don't want your centre-halves to be putting you in that kind of situation, especially one as good as Virgil van Dijk. I felt like today was maybe not one of his worst games for Liverpool, but certainly one of the poorer games he showed in a Liverpool shirt. But that was probably only because of those small, tiny errors. Well, not tiny errors, but fairly significant errors. Just ignore the background going off. It does it all the time now. But a few errors here or there. But I thought apart from that, he actually did play very well in terms of clearing the ball. You know, he gets his head on a lot of crosses. He looks imperious. He also dribbles out of the defence really, really well. And there are a few times where he actually gets into the Fulham half and carries the ball and makes some nice passes and some good decisions creatively as well. So 7 out of 10, all things considered. Joe Gomez gets An 8 or maybe a 7. I'm really not sure. I just thought he was reasonably solid today. He's probably out of, you know, that entire back four, one of the few that doesn't really make too many errors in the game. So I think maybe an 8 out of 10 because he doesn't really put a foot wrong. And Joe Gomez is, after all, a very, very good centre-back indeed. And again, has a better game than Virgil van Dijk. Who thought we would be saying that at the start of the season? And then Andrew Robertson gets an 8 out of 10. I thought he was really, really good today. One of Liverpool's best players on the pitch. You know, defensively, he didn't really put a foot wrong at all. Probably the best player across that back four in terms of how solid they were, especially up against a player like Andre Schürrle, who is pretty good and probably Fulham's best attacking player, I think, anyway. And then going forward as well, he offered so much going up and down that left-hand side, even when he wasn't getting the ball, and it's something you don't always see on TV because it does just follow wherever the ball is. But there were so many times when he was offering a run down that side and he wasn't getting it, and he'd just go back and then go again or try and take up a new useful position in terms of the attacking threat that Liverpool were offering. So I thought he was absolutely fantastic. It's a phenomenal ball for the second goal. You know, it looked amazing in the ground. It looks even better on replay, to be honest. To pick out Salah and Shaqiri from that distance when he is so far away, and Shaqiri's on the other side of the pitch, all the way on the other side of this huge crowd of bodies, is absolutely fantastic. And to be honest, there aren't too many other players in the Premier League who can cross the ball with the same accuracy, the same whip, the same like level of threat and willingness to be attacked that Andrew Robertson can offer. So for that, he gets an 8 out of 10 alone. And then Fabinho, I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10. I saw some really, really positive things about Fabinho's performance on Twitter. A lot of people were raving about him and saying he was a 7 or 8 out of 10 or something like that. But I just thought he gives the ball away a few times. And to be honest, if Henderson puts in that performance, he's getting absolutely slaughtered on Twitter. And I'm not going to get into the whole pro or anti-Henderson agendas or anything like that, because that argument is has gone on for far too long. It's far too silly now. They're both good players. Let's just get on with it. But I do think there are a few times, there's a couple of times where he passes back for no obvious reason when there are better options to pass forward, and everyone in the ground, there's just like this audible moan of, come on, let's just keep the pace going, because there were times where Liverpool looked a little bit sluggish today. There were other times when they looked on it, when they were being really creative attackingly, although I think a lot of that came from the attacking players, not from the midfield. And there were other times where we looked like we needed someone in the centre of the park to just pick the ball up and get the pace going. And I think we needed Fabinho to do that, and he didn't do that enough times for me today. And there were also a couple of clumsy tackles in there and as well. And I think, given how badly we defended at times, it would have been nice for him to step in and just offer a little bit of help to that back line. So only a 6 out of 10 for Fabinho for me, but by no means an awful performance and by no means an awful player. And then Gini van Wijnaldum gets a 7 out of 10. You know, like Fabinho, doesn't really offer that much going forward, but I thought again did everything solidly. He never really gives the ball away or makes a dodgy foul or tackle or anything like that. So I thought all in all a pretty solid performance from Gini van Wijnaldum today. Salah and Shaqiri gets an 8 out of 10. He's my man of the match. I thought he was brilliant today from minute 1 to whatever minute he went off in, minute 71 or something like that. I think he came off for Henderson with about 20 minutes to go. But I thought he was so good. The way he drives forward with the ball, the passes that he picks out, the space that he creates as well, and also his physicality in the ball, which is not something he was necessarily famed for and not something we expected to see from him at Liverpool. But as I said in my post-match reaction outside the ground, there were so many times where he picks up the ball in really tight spaces where he almost sometimes has 3 players around him, so many Fulham players trying to get the ball off him, and he keeps his low centre of gravity, he sticks his body out in ways that protects the ball, and he gets out of those tight areas as well. And it's something we didn't really think Shaqiri had in his locker. The one thing that I think we were all worried about when he came to the club was his ability to take players on, because we know he's got a brilliant cross on him, we know he's got good passes on him, we know he's got a demonic shot on him as well, but we never really knew of him as this kind of dribbler who would stand up against the fullback and then go round them. But I thought today his ability on the ball was almost Oxlade-Chamberlain-esque, the way he could pick it up and carry it forward, and he really does get the best out of those other attackers on the pitch, and it's such a well-taken goal as well. Like the Robertson cross, it looks so much better when you watch it again, because you just appreciate the cushioning of the volley. When I saw it in the ground, it looked like he just scissor-kicked it and thwacked it into the side netting, but when you see it again, you realise he's actually just cushioned it, he's placed missed it. He's made sure he gets just the right amount of power on it so it doesn't go flying over or he doesn't scuff it either. It is a really, really good finish and he deserves that massive applause that he gets off the Kop after the goal. So yeah, fantastic performance from Salah and Shaqiri. He is becoming potentially indispensable in this Liverpool side, and I hope to see even more of him after the international break. And then Firmino in that number 10 role probably gets a 6 from me. I just thought, again, that number 10 role doesn't seem to suit him that much. And as I said in the post-match reaction, he's not in the positions where we know he can threaten the most. And while we know Firmino is a false 9, he can operate from deep. He's only really good at doing that when we pick the ball up for counter-attack so he can spray the ball forward to Sadio Mane or Mohamed Salah. When we're in possession, I actually would rather see him in the box. I'd rather see him making darting runs that kind of pull the defence out of shape rather than waiting around the edge of the box to try and play the balls and other players to make those kind of runs. So I don't really like him in the number 10, and it's a problem that Klopp is going to have to try and sort of solve while he's got this extra 2 weeks over the international break, just because the 4-2-3-1 does work. I like it as a formation, especially in these type of games, but there's a few players who aren't quite fitting into the system, and I think there are maybe a few tweaks that need to be made there to get the best out of every attacking player on the pitch in that 4-2-3-1 setup. Then Sadio Mane gets a 7 out of 10, you know, sometimes poor, sometimes good. I thought he took up really good positions and he linked up well with Andrew Robertson on that left-hand side. Would have been nice to see maybe a little bit more end product from him today, maybe a goal or an assist or something like that, but still certainly not one of his worst games so far this season, if not one of the best. So a 7 out of 10 for Sadio Mane. And then Mo Salah finally gets an 8 out of 10. I thought this was another really, really good performance from him insofar as he doesn't just get the goal, he's involved all the way throughout the game as well, and he looks confident on the ball. There were times when he was taking up possession inside their box, and you think the Mo Salah of earlier on in this season would have looked for a pass as quick as possible or maybe just lost possession through being tackled. Whereas this time he looked confident to keep the ball, to try and make space for himself, to try and stand a defender up. And I think that's something we haven't seen enough from Mo Salah this season. And when he does stuff like that, the goals just come with it because the confidence starts to flow. Players become more scared of getting near him because they don't want him to turn them inside out and make them look stupid or potentially give away a penalty as well. So he was just really, really well involved today, and I really like what I saw from Mo Salah, so an 8 out of 10 for him. Then the substitutes, Henderson, 7 out of 10. You know, didn't have that much to do. The game was basically dead by the time he came on, but looked reasonably tidy given that he'd just come back from injury. Milner, 6 out of 10. Barely saw him do anything, but he was fine. Keita, 6 out of 10. Feels unfair to give him a rating because he was on for about 3 minutes. He maybe played a couple of passes and he did a nice tackle. So yeah, those are your player ratings. I thought all in all, not too many shining individual performances from Liverpool, but I think the thing that stood out so far this season is that every single player seems to have a set level where they always play at, and then there's always like about 3 players, one in defence, one in midfield, one in attack, who just have a really good game, and that's enough to kind of elevate us from an average performance to a really good match-winning performance. So taking a look at some of your comments after that game, Alfred Mallam says, when is the manager going to give chances to Dejan Lovren and Nathaniel Klein, not just Trent Alexander-Arnold all the time? Even though he has had some questionable performances this season, he seems to get the call all the time. I think, to be fair, Dejan Lovren does seem to get a fair few games. I think certainly not as many as last season, but Klopp doesn't seem to mind using that setup where Gomez moves out to right back. I think a lot of it is dependent on the opposition, and you saw today it wouldn't have really made sense to play Gomez at right back. Even though Fulham did get a fair few chances, we were still the dominant side in and even out of possession for most of the match. So I'm not surprised Trent played today. I'm certainly not surprised Nathaniel Klein played because we've seen him play, I think, once for Liverpool this season. I'm not sure he's even got on from the subs bench in any other game, and he really just wasn't up to the standard. Even defensively, he wasn't that great, and going forward, he offers absolutely zilch. I mean, at least Trent Alexander-Arnold takes up the positions you want him to take, and I mean, even to a game like today, pardon me, you look at the pass that Trent makes for Salah's goal. I'm not sure Nathaniel Klein even has the presence of mind to play a ball like that. So maybe in this winter period where things get so intense and we want to avoid injuries, especially to young players like Gomez and like Alexander-Arnold, we see a little bit of Nathaniel Klein, but I certainly can't see him providing genuine competition to either of those players in the right back berth. And again, I think Dejan Lovren will get a lot of games over Christmas, but hopefully it will remain circumstantial, so he he only ever plays when we're looking to play that slightly more defensive setup, you know, against teams like, for example, PSG away coming up, or Man United at home, Arsenal at home as well later on in December. Those sort of games, I think we will see a wee bit of Dejan Lovren. Arsim Kosova says, with Shaqiri, Liverpool play a better game. And I think, yeah, that's a fair point. And I think it's something that really, really stands out about Xherdan Shaqiri. And it's what means that, I wouldn't say he's undroppable at this point, but he is certainly becoming one of Liverpool's more pivotal players. And, I mean, if someone told you that was going to be the case at the start of the season, you would have told them to get lost, because, you know, he didn't really come in with too much promise. I think he certainly came in with the promise that he could be a useful squad player for Liverpool, but no one was ever looking at him and thinking he will play regular first team football, let alone looking at him and thinking he'll get the best out of Salah and Firmino and Mane. So the fact that he's not just brilliant in his own right, but the fact that he makes Salah play better, and I think he does sometimes make Firmino and Mane play better as well, means that he is actually really, really useful to this Liverpool side. And I would like to see him actually become a regular first team option after this international break. Adlane Debassi says, we need to buy a number 10 Coutinho-like player. I suppose he doesn't believe that Shaqiri is that an important player to Liverpool. I think it's an interesting one. I can't really see us doing it, because I think the problem is playing that creative role for Liverpool is so difficult to do. You know, you basically have to be a number 10, a number 8, a winger, a false 9, and Nabil Fekir was that, but unfortunately his knees are made of Weetabix, and I know people are saying, oh, he hasn't got injured so far this season, but it's not about just getting regular injuries. It's about the worry that we could sign him and then a few months down the line he could get an injury that basically ruins him and he's never the same player again. And I mean, with a player like Oxlade-Chamberlain already on the injury table and going to be still out for quite a while, you don't really want to be paying wages and also relying on another player in the exact same condition. And I think certainly once Oxlade-Chamberlain comes back, it wouldn't necessarily negate the need for someone like Fekir, but I think when you're looking at it, once Ox comes back, you've got Oxlade-Chamberlain as like an attacking midfielder, you've got Shaqiri as a possible attacking midfielder, and should Keita fulfil his potential at Liverpool, he can also be used in that role as well. So patience will definitely be needed, but I don't really see Liverpool buying Fekir for the reason that once all these players come good, we'll probably have a surplus of players rather than a lack of players in that number 10 role. Claire Dean says, totally love how you get your northern on when you speak, when you have been to a match. I'm a Scouser brought up in Cheshire, darling, so my accent also comes out when I'm at a match or drunk. I mean, I think this is in reference to the fact that occasionally when I do them post-match videos outside the ground or anything with the Red Men TV, a Scouse twang, shall we say, comes out in those videos, but I'm going to put it down to the fact that I have relatives from Liverpool, so I'll just say that the accent has been lying dormant all my life and does occasionally come out when I'm in Liverpool, and I will leave it at that. And I believe, is that all? Oh no, Advenko has said, we would be so much more potent if Salah was at right mid, Shaqiri at the 10 and Firmino as the number 9. I feel like Salah and Firmino are being wasted in their current positions. This is an interesting one, because I actually think Salah has, on the whole, played better since he's been moved to that striker role. I don't necessarily think he's sort of been streets ahead of what he was earlier on in the season, but I think it does suit him slightly better, because the thing is, when he was getting crowded out and he was all the way out on the right wing, it was difficult for him to do anything because the options were further away. If he got past one defender, there was always going to be an extra midfielder or a centre-back pushed out to get him there. So it was really, really difficult, whereas when he's in the box and he's being crowded out, he always just has to make one turn and suddenly the goal is gaping for him, or he's got options that are closer to him, like he's got Shaqiri in front of him, he'll have Firmino to his right if he's got his back to goal or something like that. So he's got a few more options. So I do quite like Salah playing a little bit more centrally and a little bit more further forward, and as we saw with the goal, he can still drift out wide when needed to try and get into those spacious areas. But I do agree that Firmino, as I said earlier on the video, doesn't really suit that number 10 role, so I think it will be interesting to see whether we bring back that 4-2-4 formation that we played a lot around this stage last season, where I think we had Ox out wide, we had Mane the other side, and then quite a lot of the time we play like Firmino and Solanke or something like that, or we'd move Salah central, and I think that works quite well. So I would quite like to see maybe just Firmino pushed a little bit further forward alongside Mohamed Salah, and then Mane and Shaqiri just told to occasionally cut into that number 10 role, because we know they can both do it. And as long as we not like only one of them does it at any given time, it means that we don't forfeit the width that we gain from them being out in those wide areas. So again, it's something that I think Jurgen Klopp does need to work on. But the important thing is he's now got this international break where he can sit back a little bit and work out why we have, as he said in his press conference after the Red Star game, lost our mojo. Because I think after this international break, it is an absolutely crucial period for Liverpool, possibly maybe make or break for our season, because it does, of course, determine where we go in the Champions League. The winter season could also either see us keep the pace with Man City, maybe even catch up and overtake Man City, or if our squad depth doesn't work out for us and the results don't go our way and things just go a little bit pear-shaped, we could end up out of the title race by the time we get to the new year. I don't want to be a pessimist, but you never know what's going to happen with that many games in such a short space of time. But all things considered, I thought it was a really nice game from Liverpool today. Not the most amazing performance, but they got the job done. And as I said, in any other season, you would say that was the performance and the result and the 3 points of a title winning side. So here's hoping the players can rest up for a little bit over the international break and then come back ready and firing for a crucial Christmas period where we may potentially decide whether or not we are going to stay in the title race. Apart from that, that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, why not give it a like? If you're new around here as well, hit that subscribe button there. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days, weeks, months, whatever as well. Don't forget to follow at LSE Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll be back soon with some international break news or pre-match content for the game against Watford in 2 weeks' time. Until then, bye for now.